Imagine this, the year is 1872. You're sailing across the vast, unpredictable Atlantic Ocean. Suddenly, through your spyglass, you spot another vessel. A two-masted brigantine cutting through the waves. But something's wrong. Terribly wrong. Its sails are tattered, flapping awkwardly in the wind. It's drifting aimlessly, like a ghost ship. You hail it. No response. You hail it again. Silence. This isn't a scene from a movie. This was the reality for the crew of the Dei Gratia when they discovered the Mary Celeste. What they found on board would spark a mystery that has baffled historians and sailors for over 150 years. A ship, perfectly seaworthy, with its cargo intact, yet completely abandoned. Today, we're going to dive deep into one of the ocean's greatest unsolved cases. Where did the crew of the Mary Celeste go? The Mary Celeste had set sail from New York on November 7, 1872, bound for Genoa, Italy. On board were Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and a crew of 7 experienced seamen. The ship was loaded with over 1,700 barrels of denatured alcohol, a valuable but volatile cargo. By all accounts, it was a standard voyage. Captain Briggs was a respected mariner, known for his competence and sober habits. The crew was handpicked and reliable. There was no reason to suspect anything but a smooth journey. For nearly a month, everything seemed to be going according to plan. The last entry in the ship's log was dated November 25th. It noted their position just off the Azores Islands. The weather was fair, nothing was out of the ordinary, and then nothing. 10 days later, the ship was found, hundreds of miles away, completely deserted. When the boarding party from the Dei Gratia stepped onto the deck of the Mary Celeste, the scene was eerie. The ship was wet, with about 3.5 feet of water in the hold, but it wasn't sinking. In fact, it was in remarkably good condition. The cargo of industrial alcohol was almost entirely untouched. Below deck, in the crew's quarters, their personal belongings were still there. Clothes were neatly folded, pipes and tobacco left behind. It looked as if they had just stepped out for a moment. In the captain's cabin, the scene was even more puzzling. Captain Briggs's navigation tools were gone, but his wife's sewing machine, with a piece of unfinished needlework still in it, remained. A small harmonium organ was still in its place. Most unsettling of all, there were toys belonging to their young daughter, Sophia, scattered on the bunk. It was a haunting domestic scene, frozen in time. The ship's galley was stocked with food and fresh water, enough for another 6 months. There were no signs of a struggle. No evidence of violence. The only things missing were the ship's single lifeboat, the chronometer, the sextant, and of course, all 10 people. So, what could have possibly happened? The crew of the Dei Gratia towed the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar, where a formal inquiry was launched, and that's when the theories started flying. The first and most obvious suspect? Pirates. The Atlantic was certainly no stranger to piracy, but this theory quickly fell apart. Pirates are after loot treasure. They would have plundered the ship's valuable cargo, taken the crew's possessions, and likely either scuttled the ship or claimed it for themselves. But the cargo was untouched. The crew's money and valuables were still in their sea chests. Nothing of significant value was stolen. It simply didn't fit the profile of a pirate attack. The official inquiry even considered the possibility that the crew of the Dei Gratia, the ones who found the ship, were responsible. The theory went that they had murdered everyone on the Mary Celeste to claim the salvage reward. But there was absolutely no evidence to support this. No signs of a fight, and the crew of the Dei Gratia had a spotless reputation. The court eventually ruled out foul play on their part, but the suspicion cast a long shadow. With piracy and murder looking unlikely, other theories began to emerge. One popular idea was mutiny. Perhaps the crew had risen up against Captain Briggs, killed him and his family, and then escaped in the lifeboat. But again, the evidence didn't add up. Captain Briggs was known as a fair and competent leader. The crew was experienced and had no history of insubordination. And why would a mutinous crew abandon a perfectly good ship in the middle of the Atlantic? It made no sense to trade a seaworthy vessel for a tiny, vulnerable lifeboat. Furthermore, the lack of any struggle or violence on board makes a violent mutiny highly improbable. The ship was orderly, not the scene of a bloody uprising. The entire mystery hinges on one key question. What could make 10 seasoned sailors, including a captain with his family, willingly abandon their ship in the middle of the ocean? The decision had to be made in a hurry, and it had to be based on a perceived threat that was greater than the known dangers of a small lifeboat in the open sea. This leads us to the most widely accepted theory today, one that involves the ship's cargo, the 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol. While the cargo was found intact, 9 of the barrels were empty. These 9 barrels were made of red oak, which is more porous than the white oak used for the other barrels. The theory goes like this. Some of the alcohol vapors leaked from these porous barrels and began to accumulate in the hold. Captain Briggs, fearing an imminent explosion from the volatile fumes, made a split-second decision. He ordered everyone to abandon ship immediately. They would have quickly lowered the lifeboat and perhaps tied it to the ship with a long rope, intending to wait at a safe distance for the danger to pass. They would have taken the navigational instruments with them so they could find their way back. This explains the missing lifeboat and instruments, and the hasty departure without personal belongings. But then, a sudden squall could have hit, or a strong current could have pulled them away. The rope connecting the lifeboat to the Mary Celeste might have snapped. The massive, empty ship would have sailed on, while the tiny lifeboat with its 10 occupants would have been left at the mercy of the vast and unforgiving Atlantic, never to be seen again. This scenario neatly explains the lack of violence, the intact cargo, and the missing items. But even this theory isn't perfect. If there was a vapor leak, why didn't the salvage crew smell the potent fumes when they boarded? And why wasn't the main hatch blown off, which would be expected in a pressure buildup? Some experts have proposed a cold explosion, or a vapor pressure wave that wouldn't necessarily leave scorch marks, but would have been terrifying enough to cause an evacuation. Another variation on this theory suggests that the rumbling sounds of the alcohol sloshing in the barrels combined with a faulty pump giving a false reading of how much water was in the hold convinced Captain Briggs that the ship was taking on water much faster than it actually was. In a panic, he ordered the abandonment. It was a fatal miscalculation. Other, more out-there theories have been proposed over the years. Sea monsters, giant squid attacks, paranormal events, even alien abduction. These ideas capture the imagination, but they lack any shred of evidence. They are born from the sheer frustration of not having a clear, definitive answer. The story of the Mary Celeste became a modern myth, a canvas onto which people could project their wildest fears of the deep ocean. The truth is, we will likely never know for certain what happened to Captain Briggs, his family, and his crew. The ocean holds its secrets well. Their fate remains lost to the waves, a silent testament to the power and mystery of the sea. The Mary Celeste sailed on for a few more years under different owners, but its legacy was forever sealed by that fateful voyage in 1872. It became the ultimate ghost ship, a story told and retold by sailors in hushed tones, a chilling reminder that sometimes there are no answers. The empty decks, the untouched cargo, the personal items left behind, they all tell a story of a sudden, desperate departure. A moment of panic that led 10 souls to vanish from the face of the earth, leaving behind only questions and an enduring maritime legend. What do you think happened? Was it the volatile cargo, a freak weather event, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the mystery of the Mary Celeste. If you enjoy exploring historical enigmas and unsolved cases, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next adventure into the unknown. We appreciate every single one of you for watching and supporting the channel. Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next video.